You know, the holidays are a very busy time, and as we approach this year's season, we'd like to hear about your experiences working the holidays as a healthcare professional. So please, share your stories with us, tell us what you've learned, and you might just be featured in a very special RX for Success holiday episode. Just visit rxforsuccesspodcast.com/contact-us. That's where you can leave us an email or a voice message. We'd really like to hear from you. So do it today.
Paging Dr. Cook. Paging Dr. Cook. Dr. Cook, you're wanted in the OR. Dr. Cook, you're wanted in the OR.
Welcome to the Prescription for Success podcast with your host, Dr. Randy Cook.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Prescription for Success. I'm Dr. Randy Cook, your host for the podcast, which is a production of MD Coaches, providing leadership and executive coaching for physicians by physicians. To overcome burnout, transition your career, develop as a leader, or whatever your goal might be, visit MD Coaches on the web at mymdcoaches.com because you're not in this alone. And don't forget, CME credit is available when you listen with us. Just look for CMify in the show notes to learn how. My guest today includes internal medicine, geriatrics, and obesity medicine among her board certifications. She focuses her practice on wellness, and somehow she's found time to begin writing a new book. So let's hear Dr. Miriam Zylberglait Lisigurski tell her story. Well, I'm really looking forward to my conversation today with Dr. Miriam Zylberglait, who is coming to us from down in the Miami-Dade area. Miriam, thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to Prescription for Success. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, Randy, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, as I always do, I like to begin with the origin story, and yours is not only somewhat more interesting than most. There are some other things that I want to talk about as well. Now, I know that you grew up in Peru, but if someone had told me that I'm about to meet Dr. Miriam Zylberglait, I would not guess that you were a Peruvian origin. So you want to tell us that story?
Of course. Yes, I am a Latin girl. I speak Spanish. And I grew up in Peru. I went actually to medical school there, and I practiced for 10 years as a geriatrician for the Navy of my country, Peru. But probably what doesn't make sense is my last name, which in this case, Zylberglait is the last name that I took from my husband. My original last name is Lisigurski, but both of them come from Europe. We come from families that escaped Europe during the Second World. They went to Argentina in his case and to Peru in my case, and that's where these last names come from.
I see. Well, that's a very interesting story and makes a lot of sense because indeed with that last war, there was a good bit of European migration. So thanks for sharing that with us. And I always like to know about where the guest's first interest in medicine originated. Is it something that kind of just occurred to you, or were there medical types in your family? What's the story there?
So my story is very probably different than the majority of stories. I never wanted to be a physician. I don't have family members that are physicians. I used to be terrified of needles and faint in front of blood, uh, to the point that I am vegetarian, and I am absolutely uncomfortable going to buy meat or get a chicken and try to cut it. Even now for my kids, I don't do that.
Wow.
So yes, I am not the typical doctor. My dream since I was a girl, and I'm talking about 4 or 5 years, was to help and to save the world. And I saw that I will be doing this as a psychologist, and that was actually the plan. I was in my last year of school when my best friend, we were friends since we were 3 years old, told me that she's going to medical school, so I should change my plans and instead of being a psychologist to be a psychiatrist, which means that we will be together for all medical school. I will use a white coat and everybody will call me doctor, so it looks like it's more fancy. And I was like, oh, sounds perfect. I
Pretty
didn't
good
know.
plan.
Yeah, of course. I didn't know that involves blood too, right?
That was going to be my very next question.
I didn't. Very naive. So I went to my parents that day and they were laughing about me. It's like, no way, you cannot do that. And you cannot understand that when you are in your 70s or 60s and your parents say you cannot do that, that's exactly what you will do.
Every time.
So every time. So my parents had a plan. My neighbor was a very well-known gynecologist. And they spoke with her and they decided that she will take me. In Peru, the hospitals are very open. There is this HIPAA doesn't necessarily exist, really. Mm-hmm. So I was 16 or 17 when she took me at 4 a.m. to a C-section. Everything was planned by my parents and her, and the idea was that I will be on the C-section, I will faint, I will get terrified, and that was the end of the story. For some reason, I didn't faint. I love it. It was my first experience with, the miracle of life.
Right.
And so she brought me back, knocked the door of my parents, and she said, "Congratulations, you have a doctor in the family."
Well, I got to hand it to your parents for some ingenuity. It was probably a good idea to try to come up with some plan to really verify that this was a good idea. But that's it's got to be the most interesting test your ability to survive in this environment story that I've ever heard.
Yes, they were very creative, I guess.
So what happened next? Once you got into medical school, was it largely like what you expected, or was it dreadfully difficult and boring? What was it like for you?
So just to continue with the funny part of the story is
Sure.
that my best friend decided to quit medical school even before she got in.
Oh, really?
So yes, actually she's an economist right now, nothing related to health. And I was not able to explain to my parents that I changed my mind. They already pay for the,
Yeah.
So I
gather you didn't have much interest in being an economist either, right?
No way. I am terrible with money.
Yeah.
So I entered medical school, with the plan that I will be a psychiatrist. And I discovered at that point that I had so much to learn before getting to psych. But in Peru, things are very different than here. And you are seeing patients, you are in contact with patients since year one. You don't go for pre-med. You have 8 years or 7 years of training in medicine. That in some way is great because since day one, you have the ability to be in the hospitals and interact with patients and kind of discover if you belong to that environment. But at the same time, you are in front of difficult situations that when you are 17 or 18, you are not necessarily emotionally ready to deal with. Death, unfairness of the system, cancer in a little boy. So what I realized at that point is that I was not emotionally ready for being a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist either. I used to cry with my patients awfully. And if I will continue with the idea of helping people as a psychologist or a psychiatrist, I will be a disaster because you don't need your psychologist or your psychiatrist to cry with you. That's not the plan, right? You don't pay for that service.
Yeah.
So medicine actually was my best alternative because I was very curious. I wanted to help and allow me to be detached enough so I am not involved in the emotional aspect of the life of my patients, but close enough that I care and I can help. So that actually probably saved my career because if I will go to psychology, I will not succeed in any way. I will be quitting first month.
Well, I have a feeling you probably would have experienced some maturation and probably would have succeeded very well. But in the career path that you've chosen, it sounds to me like, and looking at the rest of your CV, it sounds to me and looks to me as if you've been very successful with it, and I hope very happy with it.
I have been very happy, and I have been able to navigate medicine in different ways. Not only that I practiced in Peru initially being internal medicine geriatric doctor, but then when I came here, I had the opportunity of selecting what I will do with my life, and that could be even to be working as a chef in a restaurant if I wanted, since I was supposed to start from zero here. Anything was possible for me. And I decided to do exactly the same, to do internal medicine, to do geriatrics, and to work in the same type of environment that was an academic environment because I love teaching and mentoring. But also I explore beyond medicine and my relationship with patients that is so valuable for me. I explore academia, I explore research, writing. So for me, medicine is just the opportunity to expand yourself in many levels. You can practice medicine in many ways. It just depends who you are and what is your preference.
We'll get back to our conversation in just a moment. But first, I want to let you know about a great gift idea from MD Coaches. You can actually give the gift of coaching with an MD Coaches gift certificate. All you have to do is let us know the amount you'd like to give, and we'll issue a certificate that your special someone can redeem for a coaching session or sessions whenever they're ready. Just visit us at mdcoaches.com to get started. And now let's get back to our conversation. We'll get back to our interview in just a moment. But right now, I want to tell you a little bit about Physician Outlook. If you haven't discovered this remarkable magazine, please do so very soon. It was created by physicians, for physicians, to showcase the intersection between clinical and non-clinical interests, whether it's writing, painting, cooking, politics, and dozens of other topics. Physician Outlook gives a physician perspective. It's available online and in print. It's really unique among physician lifestyle magazines. And like the Prescription for Success podcast, Physician Outlook amplifies the voice of any physician who has something to say. It also engages patients who still believe in physician-led, team-based care. And Prescription for Success listeners can get 3 months free when you enter our promo code RX for Success and select the monthly option at checkout. That's a really great deal on this stunning publication. And now let's get back to today's interview. I don't want to get ahead of the story, but I am interested in how you came to the decision to move to the U.S.
Oh, this is another special story. So, yes, I have been workaholic all my life, very type A. Like many physicians, I focused for a long time only in my career. So, yes, I was very successful in my professional life, but I was alone. And I had the luck to meet my husband that was living here in the US. My sister lives here, so visiting my sister, I met him. And after dating back and forth Miami, Lima for a year,
Now, that's my idea of a long-distance relationship.
that's exactly.
Wow.
I came supposedly for vacations and he proposed, and I never went back to Peru. And I quit my job at that time we didn't have Zoom, it was via Skype, and we surprised our parents with a wedding. So,
Wow.
yes, that's how I came here.
And had you even given any thought to what was going to become of your career at that point?
Yes, I was afraid, but I will tell you how I took my decision. Something came to my mind. After 10 years of working in the same place, you know very well your patients, and your patients see you growing, especially when you treat geriatric patients. And I met this couple. They were married for more than 60 years. They were in their 90s or very close to the 90s. And every time that they will come to visit me for their annuals, they will ask me if I am dating someone. And my answer will be, not yet, not. And the last time that I saw them, they said something, and it's still in my mind and in my heart. They told me, "Do you understand that we are your patients? We love you, but we are your patients. When we leave the hospital, we go back to our families, and your students, they do the same, and the staff, they do the same. Who are you going back to?" And I stopped right for a second, and then they continue and they show me my white coat, and they told me, that thing, your white coat, is what you use. It's not your skin. And they were right. Medicine is not everything, or your job is not everything. Doesn't have to be medicine. Could be absolutely anything else. So when I took the decision of, jeopardizing my career in order to establish a more complete life, I took the risk, and I did right.
That's really profound. I'm almost speechless. But isn't it true that we learn so much from our patients?
Yes, and I believe that probably people like you and me, old-fashioned doctors, we had more time to spend with patients. And I always say that that's the reason why we used to burn out less than now, because we were able to have an interaction, a human interaction with our patients. And we were able to feel this special connection and to receive the love and the care of our patients, and also their advice, and create even friendships. I was lucky to be part of the family of my patients in many cases. Still
Indeed.
Today, and it's 11 years after I left Peru, I have patients that are still, or their daughters, right, their families are still in touch with me, celebrating, my achievements, and sending me pictures or even videos of their parents getting 90 years old, 91 years old, because I am part of their family. So yes, we not only we learn from them, but we receive what I call vitamin for my soul. That is the reason why I have been in medicine for so long, why I'm in love with medicine, and why I refuse to accept that interaction of 5 or 15 minutes with a patient is enough. For me, that's not enough.
Yeah. Well, that is a great story of gratification, and I really appreciate you sharing that with us. I do want to move us along a bit, and
Sure.
I'm really curious about the transition to life in this country. My understanding is that no matter how many years you might have practiced in some other country, when you come to the U.S., you almost have to begin again. Is that the experience that you had?
Yes, you have to begin again in many levels. You have to first prove that you were a doctor elsewhere, so all the paperwork. Then you have to prove that you have updated knowledge, which means that you have to take these long exams, which take you in an average 1 to 2 years to get ready for them. In my case, it was very interesting because many things that I have to study regarding biochemistry or new treatments, or how the MRI functions, something that I didn't have to study in medical school because those things didn't exist at that point, right? So
Really?
I learned about the MRI or many things, new medications when I was already a resident or at the end of medical school. So I will not know the biochemistry of those things. I didn't, you learn them
Of
as
course.
part of your new practice, but you don't go to the detail of how those pharmacological aspects of some medication, you know how to prescribe them,
Right.
but so I have to really start from zero in many levels, which was interesting and very challenging.
Did you have to complete additional training, residency training in internal medicine here
Yes.
as well?
I had to do residency in internal medicine again. I had to do my training as a geriatrician again. So yes, I went through all that. I will lie if I say that I didn't enjoy it. To be sincere, I really enjoyed it. It was fun. In both cases, for the residency and the fellowship, I was pregnant.
Oh my goodness.
So I was running around Jackson Memorial and the Miami VA with my big belly. And yes, many will think that was a difficult situation. I will say that was the best situation ever. I felt so, I don't know, inspired by, being a future mom, and I was so energetic and I'm never alone. I always had a reason to be awake and oriented. These kicks, in the stomach were keeping me up. So it was a beautiful experience. I'm very grateful. And in my case, this happened when I was 40 and above. So it was even something extra to be grateful.
And you were very productive during that period, not only with patient care, but you were involved in clinical research. At least it appears that way from your CV to me, and published a number of papers. So you were not just being swept along with the tide. You were actually participating and creating and being a part of the advancement of the science, it sounds like. Would you agree?
I was maybe not as productive as I would like to. Again, my type A personality will always come to tell me that I am not doing enough. But I was trying to find a balance, which is very difficult. And many women will repeat the same when they are in careers that are demanding, is how much you invest in your career and your education, in the excitement of, being part of something amazing, and when it's time to kind of calm down your own greed and your dreams and think about what is really important long term, and that your family is there waiting for you, and that part was very complex for me. I have to admit that I was not emotionally ready for that challenge, and that I have been learning during the last years, and many times in this case, not learning necessarily from patients, but learning even from my kids when they remind me that I am too much on the phone, or that I should, yes, my little one is really very upset with my phone. He goes and he hides it, including the garbage.
That's funny.
Yes, and he will come directly to me and ask me, "Mommy, if you have a phone, why did you bring me to the world? You should not
Oh my
have
goodness.
me." Yes. So yes,
a little tiny philosopher you have there. That's amazing.
Yeah, he's 6, and yes, he had it very clear. And the big one that is 8, he's a little more polite, but he will ask me about my day. And if I will say that it was not so good, he will send me to breathe in and out and to relax. So,
Wow.
so my kids are actually educating me. They are
Yeah,
more
so
emotionally intelligent.
you have not only a philosopher, but you have a practitioner as well. I'm very impressed with that. So tell me some more about the evolution of your practice. I know that you are very focused on wellness as opposed to being entirely focused on intervention and dealing with disease. You're focused on wellness. You got special certification in obesity medicine, which
Yes.
we need somebody with that skill in this country. So can you tell us a little bit about how that evolved?
Yes, it's very interesting. I believe that I am going back to who I was when I was 5 years old, and I was thinking about saving the world and helping people. And who I was in my 12, when I was 12 or 11, and I was thinking about being a psychologist. For some reason, I am back to that Miriam again, which is impressive how life, go in cycles sometimes. And the reason in big part is my education as a geriatrician. I was very lucky to have an excellent mentor in Peru and then another amazing mentor here in the US. They explain clearly to me the importance of seeing patients as a whole. You don't see a heart, you don't see a kidney, you don't see high blood pressure or an abnormal test. You see a human being that has emotions, that has social problems, that has fears, and has diseases too. And so all my life I practiced like that without necessarily knowing what wellness is. Because that term was not used as part of my education, right? It was natural for me to go for obesity medicine since that belongs to internal medicine and geriatrics. I mean, 50% of patients are obese or overweight at least. So I felt that it was very natural for me to learn a little more about what I was already doing and had that certification. But the well-being part came in a very surprising way. I was not looking for it initially and was not related to my medical practice in any way. It was actually very different. During COVID or around COVID, and not necessarily related to COVID, I had the experience of being in an environment that was not necessarily very benign. We had new leadership that had different perspective of what respect or appropriate interactions are defined for me, that had different values than the ones that I have. And this was very challenging for me, not because these attitudes were targeting me, but because they were targeting people that in my mind are more vulnerable and were not able to defend themselves and advocate for themselves. I took the crazy idea, become an advocate without even knowing exactly what that means or the risk that this will, bring to my life. And without having even the knowledge of how you do this. And when I discovered that I was being David and Goliath was very big, I started to reach out to people and to learn. And big part I did it through social media, like without really sharing any type of information, but trying to contact people that are in the world of well-being, wellness, and advocacy, and asking for what do I need to read, who can teach me, is there any way that I get trained? And through that, I access a training program to become a physician wellness advocate. And during that training, I actually learned so much, not only about the healthcare system, about advocacy, but then I learned also about burnout, which is actually the opposite of well-being. And that's when I discovered also several months later, because I am a tough cookie, that I was also affected by the same, monster, which is burnout. And that opened my eyes to the need of change, not only to keep advocating for others and to do things for others, but it was my time to advocate for myself, my well-being, and therefore the well-being of my family, especially my kids.
That's a remarkable story of self-discovery that I think far too often just doesn't happen because people do burn out. So congratulations to you for finding the right people and the right pathways to work it out for yourself.
And should not be, and I appreciate what, Randy, your kindness, and should not be something weird. We should have access to this information, and we should have mentors that have access to this information. And sadly, what I discovered, I will not say too late, but late enough in my career, is that we go to medical school and we learn so many amazing things. But until recently, we never had any type of training on emotional intelligence, the importance of self-care, well-being, what is burnout, how do you recognize it, how you prevent it, how do you interact with bullies, how do they look. And I'm sorry to it's so sad that talking about the healthcare system needs to include these topics now, but it's a reality. And when we see the data and we recognize that we have now, I believe that the latest number is 65% of physicians burn out. And when we have a 23% of physicians admitting clinical depression, around 60% admitting at least some type of mild depression. And this survey was done in 12,000 physicians. 13% of them admit having suicidal thoughts in the last year. 1% having an attempt of suicide. And we know that an average 300 to 400 physicians die by suicide every year in this country. And this is data that is coming from before COVID. It's getting worse with COVID, right? Or after
Indeed.
COVID. But these numbers, these 300 to 400 suicides per year, they are from before COVID. That's very scary. And I didn't know those numbers. I didn't know that this problem exists. And when I started to try to create awareness around me, and I'm talking about people that is also in academia, people that has experience, they were absolutely surprised. They didn't know. Many of them, they didn't even want to know because it's scary to know. And I took the responsibility to create some noise around this. I cannot ignore this because could be a friend of mine, could be a family member, could be me. What's the difference between me and any of these mothers with small kids waiting at home that decide to take her life? What's the difference? What's the point? Where is that line that you cross at some point? And how you know that you will not cross it in the future?
Well, I'm very happy that there are people like you who are attempting to shine a light on this subject, and I do hope we will see some improvement soon. I want to bring the subject back to you and talk about some of your more recent projects, the book that you're currently working on. So do tell us about it.
Oh my goodness, that's my third baby. and yes, so this book started as a very personal journey. I was in the moment that I was taking the decision if I need to continue fighting the system where I was, or I need to start taking care of myself and my family and remove myself from a toxic environment and find another way to practice medicine and to help others. And the opportunity of the book came in front of me. So I started this kind of a way to escape burnout, to find myself. And I didn't know really that this will become the project of my life. I was able to interview more than 30 experts around the world, actually, I believe 4 different continents. And the beauty about their lives is not only that they are experts on different topics related to burnout or stress or post-traumatic growth or teaching, education, etc. Many are journalists, TED talkers, awardees, wellness advocates. But what is more interesting is that all of them, they have their own stories of burnout or their own stories of facing adversity or trauma at some point of their life and being able to succeed after that. So the book really goes through ways to find well-being, joy, and meaning in life, using these experiences, but also using evidence-based data, because I try to incorporate not only the experience, the personal experience of these experts, but also their expertise and many research information that supports why you should be doing certain things to achieve their well-being. And the goal of the book really is very benign and simple. I want to raise awareness about mental health. I want to remove the bias about that. Successful people that you may be applauding on because they appear on TV or they have awards, they also suffer. They also have feelings. And they also have to work hard to be able to recover and keep going. And that's kind of the message of this book.
Sounds like it's going to be a good one. Have you got any prediction about when it might be available?
So yes, it's supposed to be published as an ebook at the end of December this year.
Oh, coming right up then. You must be feeling really excited and pleased with yourself about that. I should hope so.
I have mixed feelings, to be sincere, and I will explain why. I always have an explanation, not always rational, but I will explain why. This journey was so meaningful for me. I learned so many things about myself. I learned so many things about others, about society. I met amazing people, new mentors, new friends, people that I can even consider family today. And this was because of the book. This has been an amazing part of my life. So I have this mixed feeling of, okay, I am saying bye to that, that moment, that period, in order to open another one.
I understand. That makes a lot of sense. Well, Dr. Miriam Zylberglait Lisigurski, this has really been a delightful conversation, and I do want to tell you how grateful I am that you took the time to be with us today. But we're at the point of the program that I like the best, and that's when I'm going to get out of your way, which I'll do. And audience, Dr. Miriam Zylberglait Lisigurski will share her personal prescriptions for success.
Before starting with my prescription, I want to say thank you so much, Randy. I hope you understand the value that you have when you allow people like me to share our stories and to share our dreams with others, and hopefully to inspire others to go after their own dreams and to have hope. So I'm very grateful to be here right now with you. And my prescription for success, I will say that number one is to be self-aware. You need to know who you are. You need to know your heart. You need to know your values, and make sure that you follow those every time that you are taking a decision. Because the best way to be successful is to be aligned with who you really are. The second thing comes together with self-awareness, and is to be able to recognize your gaps, to understand that you are not perfect, and to know that you can ask for help and that is okay. It's okay not to be perfect. It's okay not to be okay. What is not okay is to feel that you cannot reach out to others and ask for support. So ask for help. You will be amazed of the things that you will find around you. The third thing is not consider yourself a victim. You are not a victim. Victims don't have choices or alternatives. Being in front of adversity doesn't make you a victim. Otherwise, give you the opportunity to find alternative and to be creative and to find the strength that you have inside of you. So take control of your life and be yourself and look inside and find for that strength and advocate hard for yourself, for your values, and for what is important for you. And last but not least, what I will say right now is something that I learned from my kid, Ellie. He said that when he was 7 years. And he said, this is your life, this is your choice, this is your journey. And I believe that's the best message that I can share with any of you that are hearing me. Yes, be in control of your life. Embrace it with goods and with bads, because you can make everything better if you are involved in and taking decisions about what will happen to you. And that's all what I have right now. And I hope it's helpful.
Wow. I don't think anybody could say it any better than that. I'm very impressed, and I thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you.
Before we go today, I want to give you an opportunity to tell our audience where you can be found and share your social media connections and how to get the book and anything that you'd like to share with us.
Thank you. You can find me on LinkedIn and looking for Dr. C. That's the best way. That's the only social media that I have. And the reason is that keeps my well-being and gives me extra time to share with my family and my friends in real life. And my website is www.3G as God, cycle.live. And I hope you connect with me, and I would love to learn about you and learn from you. And I hope you will join my journey of helping ourselves while we are helping also others.
Dr. Miriam Zylberglait Lisigurski, it has been a great pleasure speaking with you today, and I thank you so much.
Thank you, Randy. I really appreciate it. And you are the only person that can pronounce my two last names so beautifully. So thank you for that, too.
You're very kind. I'm honored. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. You can really help us with a 5-star rating. That'll give our podcast much more visibility, and it helps us reach many more listeners. Exclusive content is available on our Patreon page, including membership-only material like personal rapid-fire Q&A sessions with our guests. And to be sure you never miss an episode, visit our website at rxforsuccesspodcast.com to subscribe. While you're there, learn how to get CME credit from CMify just by listening. Special thanks to Ryan Jones, who created and performs our theme music, and also to Craig Clausen of Clausen Solutions Group, who edits the show. And remember, be sure to fill your prescription for success with my next episode.